Welcome to our panel discussion titled From Shortage to Strength, Closing the Cybersecurity Skills Gap for a Resilient Cyberspace. Our moderator is Nisha Pilali, international moderator and journalist. Our speakers are Shaikh Salman Alkhalifa, CEO, National Cybersecurity Center, Kingdom of Bahrain; Dr. Haji Amirudin Abdul Wahab, CEO, Cybersecurity, Malaysia; Dan Cîmpean, Director, National Cybersecurity Directorate, Romania; Dr. Bernd Pichlmayer, CEO and founder, FTGG Cyber. Nisha, over to you.
Thank you very much. Please do make yourselves very comfortable and welcome. Let's put our hands together to welcome our eminent panelists. This session is all about skills shortages and how to close the cybersecurity skills gap. Now, I don't have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that recruitment and retention to the cybersecurity workforce is something of a headache, right? In fact, the World Economic Forum reckons that something like 4 million people are urgently needed to plug this skills gap. Can that really possibly be? Well, we're going to be discussing that, and also, if we have time, what impact might AI have on the cybersecurity workforce, right? Shall we get going? I'd like to ask you, Mr. Cîmpean, the first question, if I may. Can you give us a little snapshot of what the cybersecurity workforce and skills situation is like in Romania, and what kind of challenges you face in recruitment?
Thank you so much for the question, and I'm very honored to be here in front of you. So what do we see at national level? First of all, it's a tough competition between all the actors, all the players in the market. Government, bodies, private sector, academia, we all want talent. We desperately need experts, a lot of them. We need to train them very, very fast. We need to be able to activate them very, very fast when we need it. And luckily, in many countries, Romania as well, the education system is generating every year thousands and thousands and thousands of graduates. But we are not in very good shape at global level. We saw yesterday the report on cyber workforce that you produced. Honestly, I was really scared when I saw that level of figures, the gap that collectively we have. And we must act very fast, very swift, and very sharp in order to succeed to close this gap, while, mind you, avoiding cannibalization. We have to do all the effort we can to avoid that we just shift experts between organizations. We need more of them. We don't need to really borrow from each other.
That's a very good point, Mr. Cîmpean. Dr. Amirudin, may I ask you, could you give us a little snapshot of the workforce in Malaysia, and what are the particular issues you face with recruitment and retention?
Okay, firstly, this talent gap is actually global issues. In APAC, we have about 2.6 million gap. And in Malaysia, Cybersecurity Malaysia we studied, together with Department of Skills Malaysia, we studied about the demand of cybersecurity professionals, and we identified that by the year 2025, we need about 26,000 cybersecurity professionals. However, we only have 16,000 for the moment, and it will increase even further 2026 to up to 28,000. So we have that challenges, but at the same time, the government realized this, and most recently, it has established what we call the Malaysia Cybersecurity Academy, in which Cybersecurity Malaysia will drive this. And this is done in collaboration with the industry, the academia, and basically all the stakeholders, because of the fact that we see that more and more talent is needed. And these are some of the programs that we have through a professional certification called Global ACE, Global Accredited Cybersecurity Education Scheme.
Yes, and I'd like to ask you about that a little more later. So thank you for introducing it. Shaikh Samir, your analysis of the cybersecurity skills gap in Bahrain. Actually, let's take a step back from that. What even is a skills gap? How do you see it?
good question, though. And I don't have the answer, because it depends on who you ask. If you look at one survey, it says this many million. If you look at another survey, it looks at another few million. And I truly believe this is becoming very subjective, and it's not helping. But it's obvious that we do have a skills gap. And it's also about scope. Is it purely cybersecurity skills as monitoring, incident response? Or are we talking about the other components of security? Because as you know—
What do you mean by that?
So it's a shared responsibility, and in a literal sense, your network engineer needs to understand how to secure the network. It's not going to be the responsibility of the security team. Likewise, the infrastructure team, the operating system administrators and system administrators need to configure the environments in the right way. The developers also have a role to play to deliver secure applications. So the skill set the problem is what we see right now is probably just the tip of the iceberg. And I think what we've tried to do is address that problem.
Is the tip of the iceberg?
I think it is the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. Okay, well, you think we should look at things much more holistically, and let's pursue that a little while. I want to introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, to Dr. Bernd Pichlmayer. He's a former advisor to the Austrian Chancellor. He now runs a company advising international tech companies and critical infrastructure on European Union regulations and requirements. So, Bernd, we haven't really spoken very much about retention issues. And I was wondering to myself, do you think burnout plays a part in the difficulty in holding on to people in the cybersecurity workforce?
Nisha, thank you for that question. But before I answer it, I would like to thank the GCF for the invitation, and also congratulate them for such a great event, and also the team that put so much effort and passion in that event. You can feel it as a participant, you can feel it as a speaker. So thank you and congratulations to the team. Coming back to your question, yeah, retention is a big issue, a two-sided issue in my observation. On the one side, you have the poaching of talent, and the food chain looks as follows. On the very top, you have the big cybersecurity companies that are willing to pay the most. Then you have the critical infrastructure companies that are facing some of the biggest risks. And then comes the rest of the market, including the public sector. And the problem is that because of the skills gap, there's high demand, low supply, and this understaffing in combination with the heavy workload, in combination with the high stakes at the table, unfortunately leads to more and more what we are seeing burnouts in the industry. In preparation, I came around a quote that goes as follows: "The threats never sleep, and by extension, neither can security analysts, engineers, and leaders." So that
because there's so much at stake, people feel under tremendous pressure.
Always-on culture is a big problem, and there's also a Trellick survey saying that 30% of cybersecurity experts are thinking about moving into a different career path, following a different career path.
That is not good. Dr. Amirudin, now you were talking to us about this new certification program, or maybe it's not new, but the certification program you've developed in Malaysia. I understand it's not just for Malaysians, it's for the region, people from elsewhere. What kind of impact is it having?
Okay, this professional certification program is basically to manage what we call both the quantity and the quality education with regard to cybersecurity, because we want more to be trained. But at the same time, the costs need to be affordable, so that we can train more instead of just few numbers. At the same time, we want to ensure this quality is there. So in Malaysia, we have developed this, we call it Global Accredited Cybersecurity Education Scheme, that is actually industry-driven, vendor-neutral, where it is combined effort by not just cybersecurity as the lead, but actually combined representative and experts from the government, from the academia, and even an industry. And out of this professional certification that aligns to the international standard, we have not only meet more numbers for local professionals, but we have trained more than, I think, 39 countries of this program for the last several years. It's basically covering various domains of both the technology and also the management part, for example, the risk and compliance part, in the areas of cybersecurity from basic up to the advanced. So this is one way, because we know that there are various training programs that's available. However, it could be quite costly to some. And by having this, and if we have a proper governance, say that involve all these representatives, we drive together, we develop together. At the same time, we train not only, as I said just now, Malaysia, but also at the same time other countries in the region. And now we even in the process of transferring that capabilities to other countries. For example, just about 2 weeks ago, we have signed collaboration to transfer this global ACE concept and scheme to Brunei.
Okay, okay. So creating really top-class certification programs that work locally and regionally is clearly a very important thing to do. Sheikh Salman, you were saying earlier that it's important to think about the skills gap kind of holistically. It's not just about the people with cybersecurity in their title, but also everybody in the tech ecosystem, really, that's affected. What are you doing to actually make that into a reality in Bahrain?
It was quite a challenge to think of the most ideal situation for us. So we approached it from both a top-down and a bottom-up approach. So we started at the standards, the national standards, and for every standard there are several controls of things that the IT people and the security people need to do. And then we mapped that skill needed to deploy that function. So we immediately said, this is what you need to do. These are the certifications that you need to have the competency to do that. So by default, you've just created a matrix. So how do we check that we have coverage? And so that's where an auditing company will come in on organization and audit a company's or an organization's compliance to the standard in both the technical side and also the skills side. So we have a bottom-up approach then to constantly check availability of skills and gaps of skills. And so this allows us to have this annual view of the nation's capability for cybersecurity, and it encompasses not only cyber skills, but security skills for other disciplines, including development, networking, operations, and even awareness. So we've sort of focused it on the area. So in one place, you would able to measure yourself on your capability and compliance. And so this feedback loop, hopefully, inshallah, will allow us to more accurately gauge and measure the gaps within the country.
Interesting. So we've just heard about the systematic bottom-up analytical approach to assessing cybersecurity skills. We also heard from Dr. Amirudin about the importance of certification using different stakeholders, government, private sector, and academics. But there's another very cool idea I want to introduce you to, ladies and gentlemen. In Austria, they're using NGOs to go into schools very young. I think I read that somewhere. Dr. Pichlmayer, what can you tell us about that?
I'm surprised that you digged in so deep into the Austrian cybersecurity capacity building. Well, actually, if you allow me to tell you a short story, because the background of that is pretty interesting. Usually change always happens when you have to undergo a certain crisis, and we had that crisis in 2011, when 200 websites in Austria were hacked and defaced. And law enforcement was looking for the perpetrator and found it in the person of a 14-year-old boy who was acting out of his bedroom just because he was bored. Problem solved, but law enforcement was even more concerned, because their concern was, how many more of these young people do we have there in Austria, not knowing that they are hacking in their bedrooms? So the idea was created to bring them all together via a capture the flag contest. And this
capture the flag?
Capture the flag,
okay.
Which is the term that we use in cybersecurity to in a gameful way, try to simulate hacking. And a non-profit organization was founded for that reason, which is called Cybersecurity Austria, and Dan is nodding his head because he knows what evolved out of this, the European Cybersecurity Challenge. But for us in Austria, it gave us an overview of all the talent we had, and that was in 2011, 2012, and already at that time, the hypothesis, I looked it up, was of Cybersecurity Austria that there will be too few IT security specialists for the need of our society. So
back then.
very visionary. And since that, they built up a full capacity building program. They send IT specialists to the school called Hacker Talks to engage with young people. They have Teach the Teachers programs, because once teachers graduate from school, their cybersecurity knowledge after 5 years is already outdated. They broker apprenticeships to industry partners in order to have some hands-on experience as early as possible, and they even provide expertise and knowledge to the public sector.
Very cool. So lots of different ideas on how we can try and bridge that skills gap. Now, Mr. Cîmpean, I know you're a great believer in out-of-the-box thinking. What kind of new developments, what kind of new approaches does that lead to?
Thank you so much for the question. As I said a bit earlier, we compete for talent. And I truly believe we must be able to attract this talent in any possible way to make sure they get attracted to the cybersecurity profession and they stay in the profession. Because also we see quite a lot of rotation within the experts within the profession. So discussing with very young experts in particular, I noted they value a lot quality of life. They like flexibility. They like working remotely. And we saw this during the pandemic when more and more experts did their job in cybersecurity in particular, and not only from home. So this trend is going to continue. Also what we noted, really a lot of interest for, in particular for young professionals to gain knowledge both in private sector and in governmental sector. So there's something we have to keep in mind and to be a bit more, let's say, daring in our decisions in, for example, offering them joint contracts between a private company and the governmental body to find these kind of ways so they grow professionally, they learn from one side and from the other with the mindset that they must stay in profession. And one extra thing I wanted to mention, let's not forget cybersecurity is no longer exclusively a technical domain. We need also legal people, we need the people with economic background, with psychological background, with education background.
And what about AI? People with an AI background, so the hot new technology on the block, which we can't avoid talking about, is Gen AI. What kind of impact is that going to have in terms of filling the cybersecurity skills gaps, Mr. Cîmpean?
Most likely, they will have the biggest impact, these kind of profiles. But at this moment, we are not very good in identifying them fast enough in the market, and we are not good enough in attracting them to the profession. So universities, honestly, they are doing a lot better job.
Is it going to make your life more difficult?
Cyber company. Sorry?
Is it going to make your life more difficult?
I think so. I think so.
Interesting. Dr. Amirudin, do you have the same view that the AI phenomenon coming down the highway at us, making the threat landscape that much more difficult, is it going to make your life more difficult?
Well, AI surely will make impact to the cybersecurity workforce and how we work and handle it. There's a study, I think, by World Economic Forum. There was a question and survey that they did. They asked, who will benefit the AI? Is it the attackers or the defenders? And about, I think about 8 to 9% said it will benefit the defenders, while about 55 to 58% will benefit the attackers.
Wow.
So obviously, we have to look at it from the angle, yes, we need to leverage, because there's both opportunities and threats. We can use AI, for example, enhanced threat intelligence, or maybe automated detection and response, etc. These are things that are good. But at the same time, we need to be wary how AI itself can circumvent and attack us. This is where the issue of AI for cybersecurity, and that means we make use of AI for cybersecurity. At the same time, to protect the AI, the need to cybersecurity for AI. And the challenge is that all these new technologies, the cybersecurity professionals themselves have to keep learning. It's new areas, new, I would say, knowledge that the traditional security has to be, reskilled and upgraded. So these are some of the challenges.
Or do you have to just bring in additional people alongside the AI specialists? Like Mr. Cîmpean was saying, you need to just build many skills in your teams.
Yeah, that's why the area of working together is very crucial. because I would say the world, especially the digital world, is getting more and more complex and connected, and obviously the way we protect and defend for cybersecurity professionals is also getting more and more complex and challenging.
So clearly it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yes.
Major disadvantages, but also potential advantages. How do you see the likely impact of AI, Shaikh Salman?
So, I mean, we're obviously on the cusp of a massive transformation. AI is really going to be an asset and a risk, but I think we have no choice but to embrace it. And the earlier we embrace it, the earlier we can upskill our team, select the right partner to support us. Because
what are the potential benefits by doing so?
And that's the point. Selecting the right partner gives you the tooling to easily or much reduce your workforce from the regular day-to-day monotonous work of monitoring, and move to a more threat hunting approach where now you have the greater volume. And not only
so you can use your the skills you have more selectively.
Exactly. So you probably could double your workforce by just getting rid of the mundane work. Not only that, your threat hunting abilities, if you embrace artificial intelligence and have the skills, that I could see it make the workload much more efficient. So it's the ability of skills and the right tooling to take advantage of it. But we have no choice but to embrace artificial intelligence.
We have no choice. Dr. Pichlmayer, we hear in software development that AI is enabling a single programmer to do the work of 3 or 4 previously. Could it potentially have the same benefits in cybersecurity, do you reckon?
I think that is the hope and the big chance that all of us count on. I think that the very same development which created the problem, and that is the rapid digital transformation, also going to deliver the solution. I think as Chris Inglis yesterday put it when he was on stage, we need to surf the wave. We need to learn how to surf the wave, because if done correctly, technological progress most of the time helps the one with the fewer resources. And in particular with AI, there are many fields where we can replace repetitive tasks by automation. Let me give you 3 examples. For example, monitoring of log files, vulnerability and patching, filtering false positives. So all these repetitive tasks could be done by an AI-infused CM. It's already offered on the market. The problem, in my experience, most of the cases is that there's a lack of maturity in many companies to implement it correctly so that they can use it. Another example for AI that would help with regard of the labor shortage is, for example, predictive analysis. So you could, if you are able and willing to combine the data that you have, the telemetric data, with geopolitical knowledge, with knowledge from attacks in the industry, and with historical data, you're able to predict potential attacks, which puts you in a proactive role, and therefore takes so much weight off the shoulders of technical analysts. It's not the only solution. Let me make that point. I think what needs to be clear for all of us, we need a holistic approach. AI can only be one element in the puzzle of solving the skills gap and the workforce shortage.
Excellent, really interesting stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, as we heard from Shaikh Salman, let's embrace the opportunities of AI, not to run away from them. Maybe we can find out ways in which we can use it, the predictive possibilities, the predictive potential to try and target attackers better. And maybe we can expand AI and expand our workforces so that we build out more competent teams. Fingers crossed, inshallah. Haven't we had a great discussion? Let's say a big thank you to our panelists.